Go ahead.
Hey, Emma. As you were speaking about in the last match, you've come to a point now where you have to give fewer and fewer instructions. So what kind of hypotheses are you looking to test now?
I mean, I don't think that will ever stop in terms of testing both our group against a variety of opponents. I think it's fair to say this camp is very different to the last one and the type of opponent we faced, and very different to the She Believes camp. And it's the diversity of experiences that we want to expose the team to. Is the first thing. I think for me, the big challenge now is we've demonstrated we can do our first game really well in camp. The challenge is sustaining that level over a 90-minute period in the second game. Now, granted, I've made lots of changes from game 1 to game 2 as we develop an accumulation of experience for a bigger depth, a larger playing pool. But that will be the challenge I set for the team. Is I want to see another level in us again over a 90-minute period, knowing that from an attacking perspective anyway, the key principles we've been instilling in the group and the areas of the pitch we're asking them to get into, we're doing that at a high level, but do it again and do it better is the challenge.
Thanks.
We can go front right here, these two.
And kind of along those same lines of just having that experimentation from match to match when you look at the attack and how well they looked in the first match. Is there any thought in this one just kind of rolling it back and seeing what that consistency, or do you want to see something else in how you're moving with the group?
At this moment in time, I'm interested in developing experiences for the individuals, but within a framework that we want our players to work towards. So nothing's changed in terms of our objectives. There'll be changes tomorrow, and I'm taking this camp and next camp to do all of those things. And I've just watched an under-23 game. We've got an extraordinary group that require these experiences. So we just have to keep investing in that. And like I said, the things we need to dial up in this next performance are the things that, 1, we'll work on in training, and 2, we'll work in the classroom when we go back. And I look forward to seeing how our team achieves that, not just the starting group, but again, the group that come in, because I want to make sure that whether you start, whether you come into the game, it shouldn't alter our level. If anything, we should keep finding other levels in us. So it'd be a good challenge for all of us.
As you mentioned, the U23s, I was curious, now that they played their first set of matches in a while, how you feel the revamping of that program has gone, and where do you want to keep going with it?
Yeah, I mean, it was 2 tremendous games. I mean, I watched a high-level game this afternoon. Both the exposures we got for our players. I mean, you're playing a top German team that also had 5 overage players. So I never once looked at that game and thought anybody was out of place there, which is a starting point. But finding consistency at international level, so many of those players don't have it, whether they've come straight from the 20s to the 23s. This is how it should be. This is why Germany and England and Spain on many levels have taken leaps in the right direction, because they've had a 23s program and a programming at 20s and 17s that has been above the volume we've been doing in the US. So redressing that balance is critical for future success. And these 2 games will, I think, be pivotal for the success of these players, whether they're going to be eligible for 27 or 28 or 31. I've no doubt they are necessary developments for all of our players.
Who else? No? Anyone online? Put them in.
Hi, Emma.
Hey.
From Cannonball, the Philadelphia Inquirer here. Up the road in Chicago, coincidentally, and it's not often that the men's and women's senior national teams are at work at the same time having camps, and it came to mind in part because you guys are just down the highway by coincidence from where they are at the moment. And if the opportunity did ever present itself, and maybe it's tougher the next 2 summers because of World Cup summers or whatnot, but if the opportunity did present itself for a joint camp, is that something you'd want to do, and what do you think could be gained from it?
To be honest with you, it's not on my radar. What I will say is the work that's being done in the background is we're pretty mapped out for the next 2 years. So you'd have to speak to our program director on those things, because what I've learned about international games and stadiums and training sites is there's quite a complicated matrix to determining which city we're in and which opponent we get to play. So if you take October and November camp, we still don't have an opponent because we have to see how the Nations League pan out. And then depending on that opponent, we can then make decisions about... We'll tell them we'll be there in a minute. Would be, determine the opponent. But of course, especially with Atlanta and moving to Atlanta, I'm sure those opportunities will arise more organically. But of course, it has to be in line with where our games are and things like that. But yes, is the bottom line, but not an easy answer to answer based on all of the factors I just shared.
Anything else
I
on
appreciate it, thanks.
Thanks, Jonathan. Throwing us hypotheticals. Is there anything else online there, pal? Throw them in there.
Hi, Sean Suck, Long Island Magazine. Thank you for taking the time today. You were missed yesterday at the Rough Rider reunion event.
Oh, nice.
Well, I asked them for a scarf because you have mine. They didn't give me one. I might have to get that back from you. But anyway, you have a number of New York players, particularly a lot closer to where I am, where you were. What do you think? One is newer to you and others not so much. Do you think something different's going on locally as far as the players are getting better, scouting better, or just one of those things like the cycles that go around?
What, that there's not a lot of New York players? Is that the question?
There are or there aren't New York players?
There are, yes.
Okay.
There are.
Fallon, who's new. Crystal, of course, is an own entity. Coffee is upstate. Hutton is upstate.
I can remember from working in Region 1, the quality of players up and down from, Delaware all the way up to, New Hampshire. And as I keep saying, New York State, you can fit England 4 times into New York State. So I'd like to think we can still find top quality players. One thing I'm learning about this country that I always knew, but I know it even more so, is there's a lot of good players everywhere. But how we develop each and every one of those players, I think, at US Soccer, we have to work really hard to join all of that up, because the US is larger than Europe. Well, not if you include the entire span of Russia, but most of it's like pretty cold and uninhabitable. But it's not easy to there's plenty of good talent, but creating the right development pathways, knowing the regional differences too, because there's a distinct difference between a Region 1 player and a Region 4 player, or a Region 2 player, or a Region 3 player. And I remember that from working here. But the diversity in our team, I think, is something that will always be prevalent. And long may that tradition continue.
There's a player from Hawaii on the U23s today. Back there, go ahead.
Hey, Coach. Corey Miller from NBC here in St. Louis. It's a big soccer community here. Just your thoughts on being in St. Louis this week.
Well, I think it's about the 3rd time I've been here. The first time I was interviewed for a job here for the Athletica, but I took the Chicago job. And then my second time here was, I think, my opening game as the Red Stars coach. It's probably one of the only games we won, but I remember it. And the third time, as always in recovery days, I always make sure I see the town. So I had a lovely walk round the park and laid under the arch yesterday, and I thought I was in Guardians of the Galaxy. It's a pretty awesome structure. With the history I do not know about it, I asked Hyfe on the way over here, so I'm curious to know a little bit more about it, but it is one impressive structure, and I still can't quite figure out how, not so much it's erected, but how did it get there? Like, how was that? Because it seems to defy physics a little bit. But, and I know about the hotbed of talent in this area from those previous experiences. So I just probably didn't anticipate how hot it was going to be. So they're already hydrating with electrolytes and a good 50 SPF factor because they've seen this English skin come a mile off. But it's a pleasure being here.
Looks like we got one more in line, yeah? Go ahead, Jillian.
Thanks so much. Hi, Emma. I'm Jillian. I'm out of Kansas City. And just on the back heels of that question, I'd love to get your take on Becky Sauerbrun's legacy. Being this game is kind of dedicated to her and celebrating her. And then I was going to also follow up with just how you thought, hey, there we go, how you thought Lola Bonte's debut went and if you thought it was everything you expected.
Well, I think let's start with Becky and her bobblehead. I mean, you know you've made it when you've got a bobblehead. Let's be clear. I remember Becky when I had a really brief spell with the Washington Freedom, and I remember coming in. Jim Gabar asked me to come in for about 10 games. And I just remember, this was before she was on the national team. She's sitting at the back. And I remember walking in and saying to Jim, how the hell is she not on the national team? She's got everything the country's looking for. She's composed. She's got great poise. She's got something that gets so underestimated as a defender. She anticipates things well. Therefore, she doesn't have to emergency defend because she's always in the right position. A quiet leader that I'm pretty certain that once she'd got on the national team, she was never going to come off. And I think actually from that time I was there, you might have even got your first call up in that following October and haven't looked back. And like everything in life, it's always nice when the people you leave behind talk about someone in such a way. And I can say this without hesitation. I've got a locker room, not just the senior players, but less experienced players that talk about her in the highest esteem, both as a leader and as a human being. And I don't think you could want anything more than that in life, and to have people talk about you like that. So I'm so delighted for her. This is in her hometown and with her people. And I know my senior players are really excited for her tomorrow. And though I didn't get the honour of coaching her the national team level, she's made a mark on the programme that is still living on in the walls of the building. So let's make sure we all come out and celebrate her because she's so deserving of it.
Clearly, that was the most uncomfortable 2 minutes of Becky's life. Did you ask about Lo as well, Jillian? I'm sorry.
I did, and
Yeah.
Becky, Kansas City still loves you. But yeah, your thoughts on Lo as well, Emma.
Listen, we have this thing called a leaderboard in-house. So every camp, of course, USA, we're competing for everything. And Lo has come from middle of the pack to going into the last session today, vying for the winning position alongside Emma Sears and I think Emily Sams. Emily Sams feels a bit robbed of points.
We can give a Becky bobblehead for the winner.
I think it's already in the bag.
Oh, okay.
I think that might have been included. But she has come into the camp and settled in a way that I think that's the difference with having experience. She's still wants to improve all the time, but she's come in not just with the great humility, but a great confidence in herself and what she brings. And for that reason, I think she's soaked up every single minute like it was her last, and her behaviours towards not just herself but everybody else in the team, I think serves as a great reminder that one, it's never too late, but also that you never stop learning. And she's been an unbelievable learner all week with an unbelievable growth mindset, and she's been absolutely brilliant.
Last one in the back. Go ahead.
Gracie Barra here with CBS in St. Louis, and I just want to get your thoughts. I'm not sure how much you've gotten a chance to walk around here at Energizer Park, but your impressions of the stadium and the facilities here.
I mean, absolutely superb. What a first-class stadium, and I loved just initially entering the stadium, the openness and the fact that there's just great viewing no matter your seat. I think you already get a sense of the atmosphere here and what it feels like, and the closeness to the city as well, which I love. Haifa's given me a little bit of a backstory about the female ownership here. So that there's a really nice story behind it, and one that, as I keep saying, like for us, feels like, I know we're a bit of a travelling roadshow, but we love travelling around the country and we love meeting our fans around the country. So very excited to the atmosphere that this stadium clearly creates. And like I said, it's a privilege for us.
Awesome. All right, we'll get everyone in the mix zone. Becky has said she will talk to the media after the players are done. So if you want to talk to her, she'll be there.